Sexual sins, for some Christians, it's their number one hindrance to enjoy their walk with God. I have found out that most Christians who commit sexual sins do this in secret and not in the open. Most people who suffer from lust commit it so much so that they don't even know the difference between living in holiness and living in lust. Lust for most people is a normal way of life. Their conscience is cold towards sexual immorality. For some people, they have even destroyed their home because they couldn't control themselves from sexual immorality. They have a sexual affair with someone who is not their spouse, and as a result, they lose their marriage and everything they had owned. But before I tell you a story I heard, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe, like and share our YouTube channel, and turn on the notification bell to be notified each time we upload a new video. I heard of a couple who recently got married. Their marriage was the definition of the right marriage. It was what every person looked forward to having in a marriage. They had a very strong love between each other. They had a beautiful home and lovely children. The woman always spoke highly of her husband because of how much she thought he loved her. One day, she heard a knock on the door. She went to open it and she found out that it was a woman with 2 children. They were looking for her husband, but the husband was not at home. He was at work. Few hours later, the husband returned. He was shocked to see the other woman and her children. The wife later found out from his confession that he started dating this woman 3 years after he got married to her. Sexual immorality brings nothing but shame to people. That is why it is done in the secret. You enjoy pleasure for a moment, but it destroys something valuable in a long run. If you are involved in any form of sexual sins like fornication, adultery, masturbation, pornography, you must understand that it is destroying you. If we are saying you shouldn't commit sexual sin, it's not because we don't love you or we are judging you. It's because of what happens to a person that commits sexual sin. There is no enjoyment in sexual sins. It only destroys you and the person involved. Have you noticed that sexual sins are now normal in the world? The devil is making sexual immorality look like what mature people do. This is a very big deception from hell. Look at the movies and the social media. A lot of sexual immoral are being sown into the minds of people, Christians inclusive. This sexual sin is also in the church today. Many people in the church are committing adultery and fornication. Some church leaders and pastors suffer from pornography and masturbation. The devil makes you hide that sin so that you won't be free. We have a duty as believers to not only preach the truth, but also walk in the truth. I have found out that even among those who are spiritual, the devil has found a way to lure them with this sin. This is why you must stand on your guard so that you won't be a victim. There have been cases of big CEOs and wealthy people who have been brought low because of a scandal that they commit. A pastor in America recently asked a whole church for forgiveness because he committed adultery and he was ashamed of it. It doesn't matter who you are, you must always stay humble and allow the grace of God to help you always overcome sexual temptation. This is why no one should feel judged by this message. We are all products of God's grace. Any person you see fighting sexual immorality purely is doing that by the grace of God. Don't feel bad. We have all at one point or the other in our life fallen short of the glory of God. You can choose to stay fallen or rise away from that struggle. The Bible speaks of a certain king by name David who committed sexual immorality and ended committing other grievous sins because of it. 2 Samuel 11 verse 2-4 Then it happened one evening that David arose from his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to behold. 3 So David sent and inquired about the woman. And someone said, Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? 4 Then David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her, for she was cleansed from her impurity, and she returned to her house. King David also suffered from this secret sin. He slept with another man's wife while his men were at war. When he found out she was pregnant, he asked one of his men to call her husband from the battlefield. He did this so that her husband will go in with her and sleep with her, and the pregnancy will be mistaken as her husband's. But her husband refused to go in and sleep with her because he was still in battle mode. David later ordered that her husband be put in a battle line where he will be killed. King David killed her husband because of this sexual immorality he was trying to cover up. We can see that sexual immorality doesn't only stop at the act, but it can lead to death. I'm not only talking about physical, but also emotional, spiritual, and otherwise. When God is warning us about sexual immorality, we must never be tired of listening to His voice. He knows what is best for you. Sexual sins affect your own body. This is the only sin that has effect on your physical body. Other sins have effect spiritually, but sexual sins also have physical effect. Many Christians know this, and yet they are still committing fornication and adultery. The fact that it is done in secret doesn't stop it from having an effect on your physical body. Don't endanger your body because of pleasure. The devil is not only destroying your spiritual life, he is destroying your entire being. He is using pleasure to give you pain. It may not feel like pain now, but believe me, the pain will always come if you don't sincerely repent and never go back again. Sexual intercourse is dangerous. You may be seeing a physical act of 5 or 10 minutes, but the consequences is huge. When you have that physical act, you are joining yourself with a person. Why on earth would you want to be joined to a person who you don't know what spirit they carry? You don't know their spiritual background and what demons they have opened the door to in their personal life. Sexual immorality joins you with a person as one soul. This is what is called soul tie. The sexual demand of that person's soul begins to affect your soul. Soon, apart from your personal present challenges you are having, you may suffer from the same struggle that person is also having in their personal life. People are going about having sex and creating bonds that shouldn't exist. If you're having premarital sex, I want you to understand that you're joining yourself with another person and becoming one flesh with that person, and you end up creating a spiritual tie with the person. Can you imagine creating spiritual tie with over 5 people? Each time you have premarital sex, you're opening up your spiritual doors for that other person to get in, and do you know why this is very dangerous? It is dangerous because you don't know how that person is spiritually. You don't know the kind of spirits they possess, and you're uniting with their own spirits unknowingly. You're opening yourself up for so many things each time you engage in premarital sex, and this is exactly why God instructed us to only have one partner. That partner should be your spouse, someone that you're already married to. God made sex and gave us a guide on how to use it because He knows how powerful it is, and He wants to protect us from the consequences of doing it the wrong way. Why can't we take God's instructions and follow the guideline? Why would you decide to have premarital sex with people and unite yourself with them? Why would you want to create soul ties with different people? Maybe before you used to be someone who was patient and never quick to get angry, then you join yourself with someone struggling with the spirit of anger and lack of patience. That spirit unites with yours and overcomes your spirit. And then soon you find out that you're struggling with anger and lack of patience. You start wondering why you are now how you are. But what you don't know is that the moment you had that premarital sex with that person, you became one flesh with the person. And whatever they struggle with becomes your struggle too. Guard your soul. Be careful.